And if you're here to watch Jared and I joke around about content on a Friday afternoon, then you are in the right place. This is not the official Components podcast, which again we will be reviving with a new season very soon. This is the Friday show where we try to talk about some fun and occasionally serious things as they relate to content. So Friday, happy Friday, Jared. How you doing?
Happy Friday, Patrick. I'm good. I am doing
Good.
well.
I'm really glad to hear that. And it's just the two of us today, which
Yep.
means Bren's not here, which also means we don't really know what we're doing because we don't typically
None.
run the platform. So if there's any
Zero
actual
idea.
issues with this, we're going to blame that on Ren's absence. So hopefully everybody's able to hear us and
Well,
this is
I'm going to
working.
blame it on your incompetence that has to be shown and manifest because of her absence.
I mean, that's probably fair. I think there's a lot of things you could blame on my incompetence. All right. So every week we try to do a news article and then a hot topic. So I got my news article. You got one. I
I
got a
got
hot
one.
topic. You got one too.
Yeah. Well,
All
I don't
right.
have an article for this week. I have an article that I want to talk about next week, but
Okay.
I have an item to discuss that has been coming up more and more.
All right. Well, I think yours is a little more serious than mine. I
Yeah.
went like not super serious on my article this week. It felt like this week could use a little bit of a breather at the end of it. So I went a little bit more humorous. Why don't you start off
Yeah.
with yours?
Yeah, so for anyone who doesn't know me, my job is sales engineer, whatever you want to call me. I'm the guy that like gets to show up and listen to use cases and evaluate whether our system is a good fit. And what I noticed throughout this last week and really kind of wrapping up last quarter is that I'm starting to talk to more and more atypical groups,
All right.
atypical for technical content groups. And what I'm seeing, I think, is really cool. I think it's really interesting, and I am curious to get your thoughts. When I say what the two main groups I've been talking to are, see if you think the latest AI push has any influence in this. Um, the two groups that I've been talking to most are sales groups. Believe it or not, I've been talking to sales organizations, basically revenue ops groups, people
Okay.
who manage that side of the house.
What? So
Um,
wait, but like, who in RevOps have you been talking to?
um, Title wise, I don't know. I don't remember off the top of my head.
Like, what do they
Um,
want to do? Like, I mean, because
oh
I
yeah.
can't.
So
That
basically, it's like
that's out of left field for me. Like that one
yeah, okay.
doesn't typically fit.
So imagine it's often somebody that's like works in marketing and is related to the like specifically works on the sales and rev ops portion of that, like the connection between those two groups. So whenever the marketing team gathers a bunch of interesting information, stuff that can be used as part of through the sales process, then I'm dealing with the people who kind of like deal with that content. And what they're recognizing is they get certain statistics or quotes or things from now customers that were prospects at one point. So they've seen, their tool has helped somebody along in the process. They get really good quotes. They get really good statistics on like how things have become more efficient, more productive,
Mhm.
whatever. And then they have that piece of content and they're like, we drop it into a Google Doc.
It's
And then
funny.
we have to like go find it later because an AE will come ask for it
Yeah.
from us. And then we have to be able to deliver it to them somehow. And so now they're starting to be like, I mean, literally, they're saying like these marketing people are coming to us and they're saying, we need structured content, we need component content because we need to get these pieces out. And it could be a single sentence that we need to be able to deliver out. And instead of having to go find and search through Google Docs, it
Hmm.
has to be componentized so we can get it out faster.
That's super interesting because like we're doing that transition internally right now too, right? Like standing up the internal all the internal information with all that stuff is switching from Google Docs to hold that stuff to over to Hereto. Uh,
Yep.
that's kind of hilarious that I didn't even think of that, and we're doing it.
Yeah. So they're like literally taking like they'll compile what some of these groups want to do is take those quotes, put them in a new doc, compile that PDF so they can deliver it to the
Mhm.
prospect.
Well, yeah,
It's
because you can imagine
fantastic.
like you're like, okay, I've got a prospect who's in this industry with this case,
Hmm.
like, you know, filter out all the stuff that doesn't make any sense for them and like show me the stuff that does
Yeah.
and like wrap around yeah. So I guess that actually does make a lot of sense.
And they
Um,
even have it down to some of these groups have it down to like the AE is talking to a C-level person here, or even get more fine grained within
Yeah.
the C level, like who it is and what are the pieces of information that that particular executive wants to see versus this executive. So they might leave two of those pieces in, one for a CEO, one for a CIO, but or they could be delivering it to some like middle management person. So they have a completely different set of information that they want to
Hmm.
deliver for that person, and they want to keep it all in one system.
Interesting. Is
Yeah.
that the only one, or are you seeing something else too?
I'm marketing stuff too. So we're getting more groups that are like they're producing marketing documentation that's like more technical and it's not one
Mhm.
off. It's stuff that needs to be stay more consistent over the long term. So it's not
Yeah.
necessarily like campaign to campaign, but it's stuff that they need to componentize so that they can deliver it and govern it. Really,
That's interesting because that one I feel like people have been like flirting with
yeah,
structured content in marketing for a long time, and I know we were like pretty set against doing marketing implementations for most of the time that we've been
right.
Hereto, or back when we were even Easy Data. I'll be curious to see if we actually find that it's a good application.
I think it's going to be a very specific set and
Yeah.
a very specific use case within a larger marketing org. But I think it's there for anybody that's producing technical marketing content. I think it works.
Interesting. All right. Well, mine is way less like
But
actual.
funnier,
It's yeah. Okay.
it's
All
more
right. So
enjoyable.
mine's an actual news article, which is technically the assignment. So on one
It is.
side, I actually did what we were supposed to do. So mine's NPR, and it's the Federal Highway Administration is starting to put more governance on what can be on the billboards on highways and things like that, because a lot of states have been getting like real cheeky,
Yeah,
and putting up humor in there.
they're letting
Um,
people like me run it. That's
yeah,
the problem.
right, right. And I love this story because it's funny, but it also is one of those things where it really reminds you that like this kind of content and content management is all around us and you just don't see it. We had somebody on Coffee and Content like I don't know, it was a couple of years ago now, and he said this thing that just like completely changed the way that I thought about like content and all these things. And he said, look around you. What human beings do is they structure their world for their purpose. And he's like, a building is just a restructuring of materials for
Hmm.
human utility, right?
Yeah,
And
yeah,
you're like,
yeah,
oh my gosh, you're right. And you start to look at the world that way. And then you start to realize that content is also part of every experience.
yeah.
It's everywhere. It's on signs. It's in all the stores that we walk through. It's like just integrated into our lives. And there are people who are governing it all the time. So I thought it was
Yeah.
kind of cool to see content governance show up on highway signs.
Oh, that's interesting. That's cool. Yeah, I mean, I would like. I always chuckle at those, but we live in a world that is starting to get so cheeky that like it's not like the novelty's kind of gone. Like, just tell me what you need to tell me at this point.
Yeah.
Give me the info.
I mean, I don't know. Does humor ever really get old though? Because it does mean that you remember things better typically.
It does, but sometimes it's just like overly cheeky. You're just like, okay, you're trying to be cheeky just to be cheeky, and like, just tell me that there's a wreck coming up
Yeah, that's
or
fair.
ice.
Uh,
Sometimes,
So
sometimes.
okay, so the other
Says someone who's super ridiculous all the time. Like,
right. I mean,
yeah,
I don't. Yeah, okay. The other thing this made me think of is this very similar process happens with release notes for a lot of organizations, where
yeah,
they try to find the balance between letting people know, because
yeah,
a release note, for all intents and purposes, is a notification. It's the same thing as on a billboard when you're driving down the highway.
yeah,
It's just different context. And a lot of organizations they try to make their release notes like lighter and more fun so people will
yeah.
actually read them. But there's a limit on that too. And it's funny that like software organizations have similar content management, content governance, and style guide problems as the Federal Highway Administration when you really boil it down.
It's fun. We're all nerds. We're all
Yeah,
nerds. Just trying
it's
to
all
trying to
content.
make the best of it.
All right,
Dude,
hot
it's so
topic.
yeah.
All right, wait, you have something else on that? You
Well,
want
I
to?
was just it's one of these times I think we need to get into an argument about structured content, like the term structured content. Like I want to fight about that.
I think we've got components podcast coming up where we could
All
actually
right, all
fight
right.
about
We'll put it
that,
on there. Okay.
and then people could edit it out because they don't want to hear us fight about that.
It's worth fighting about.
All right, hot topic. I'm going to go first because your
All
hot
right.
topic is completely not content related.
What I would hold on, because this is going to get back to the structured content thing. I'm
Yeah,
going to show
all
you
right.
how it's
I want
related.
I want to see you bring it back, but
All
I
right.
don't think it's content related.
Okay.
All right. So my hot topic is I ran a survey on the technical writers forum group on LinkedIn
Mhm.
at the end of last year. A poll, I suppose, actually, technically, and it was looking at AI usage in TechCom. So I wanted to know, like, we've been living
Yep.
in this for a year. How many people are using it? So my exact question was, as a technical writer or information developer, how much are you using Gen AI technology today? And I got to be honest, the results of this kind of surprised me. So there was four options. The first one is daily. The
Mhm.
second one is multiple times per week. Third one is few times per month, and the last one is rarely or not at all. So you've already seen this, so I can't make you
I
guess.
mean,
But
I'm looking
yeah,
at it,
all
but
right, I know. I wish I could make you guess. But like, okay, so beforehand, would you have guessed that rarely or not at all was going to be 53%?
no, no, no. I would have said that a few times a month, probably given last year, would have been like where people were, because people were
Yeah.
still there's still some like timidity about using it. I wouldn't have guessed that over half of people have been like, nah.
Yeah, that's just wild to me. So let's go
Yeah.
down to the percentages. Daily,
All right.
12%. Multiple times per week, 19%. A few times per month, 16%. And then rarely or not at all is 53%. So it's
Of
pretty evenly distributed amongst the other
sample
ones.
size of 360, what does that say? 366?
It's 366. Yeah, so it's pretty big. You know, like a sip
Yeah.
tastes like the soup. I think that's a pretty good representation of what technical writers are. Um, I'm surprised by that. So I started thinking about it in terms of my own usage. And like I've got weeks where I use it every day, but I've
Yep.
also got weeks where I don't use it at all. You know, really depending on like what it is that I'm doing. And it made me stop and think like, am I leaving efficiency on the table, or is it just that it doesn't really help me on those weeks, and therefore like it's a logical decision?
I mean, I can think of 3 times personally where I have been working on something and later, in fact, one time was you, another time somebody else reminded me. They're like, "Have you tried using an AI tool for this?" And I was like, "Oh, no." So it just is. It's not a part of my mental process that I would go through. It's not a tool that I turn to yet. So for me, that's like the weeks that go by that I don't use it. It's probably because it's just not occurring to me that it's something that could maybe assist me in whatever I'm trying to do.
You know, the thing is, I got that to that same conclusion independently. Is that I think it's just not part of my daily process yet. Like
Yeah.
it hasn't. It's not a tool that I use um, just out of instinct. Like it's not the first place I go. And I don't know if that's just me or if it's not fit for it. But I do think that I have to start encouraging myself to use it on a more like specific tactical,
Yeah.
like putting it like more in a more micro step. I think that's a better way of putting it, because I'll use it in terms, there's certain things I use it for, like
Right.
um, I use it to with ideation, like if I'm like trying to get some
Yeah.
content out or something like that, like I'll have it interview me, or i'll um, I'll put something in that I don't really like, and I'll be like, "What do you think of this?" And like, it will put something back that I also don't like, but it'll help me go write it off
Yeah.
separately. I don't think I've ever actually posted anything or published anything that the AI actually wrote, but I've used it to like help me to unstick me in a writing
Yeah.
process. But I don't think it's part of my like really like it's not like slotted in on a micro level yet, which I
Yeah.
think is where I
Yeah.
want to get to.
Yeah. I wonder too if some of the people that replied to this, if I mean we're not a monster organization. We're small. We can be
Hmm,
really nimble. A lot of them maybe don't have access yet for work related
that's fair.
purposes.
Hmm.
So maybe that's some of it. Also though, like, and just because we're recording this, I want to be very clear. I have never used an AI tool for my any of my academic work, but I do want to use
Yeah.
it regularly for work. Like,
Yeah.
because it can help me, it can help streamline what I have to do and what I have to get done in some cases. Like, I'll actually use it as a reference tool a fair amount for like the thing I've used it most lately for is like checking regex. Like, can you check to make sure this is right and give it the context, and then it'll
That's a
confirm.
good use. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, and it's just like, help me out here. Like, I'm messing up somewhere. Where am I missing it? And it's really
Yeah.
good for that. I don't have to bother you or somebody else and be like, can you look at this? I just ask it and it checks. So that's really helpful.
But I would be faster at writing X probably.
Eh,
Yeah.
XSLT. I'll give you that one any
All
day.
right. All right.
Yeah,
Fine.
yeah.
Okay.
Okay,
All right.
last. You ready for mine in the last
Yep.
minute?
Do it.
You said content applies to like videos, content applies to the billboard signs, it applies to all these other things, right? So the Buffalo Bills, that's my hot topic.
All
I'm
right.
excited
Yeah.
about Sunday. They're going to win. The relation to content. Streaming services provide content. We all say that. They
Mm-hmm.
do, right? Is anybody
Yeah.
going to tell me they don't? Well, if that's the case, if streaming services provide it, then so do major networks. They provide content. They're going to provide me access to the Bills game on Sunday. Streaming services are going to provide me content. The Bills are content. Done.
You just wanted to say the Bills are content, so you could say go Bills.
Go Bills.
All right. Well, I mean, we're upstate New York. I'm a Bills fan. I'll allow it. All right.
All right.
Well, I hope everybody enjoyed hanging out with us for a few minutes this afternoon. This was a little bit about content. These range in terms of how serious they are for sure. So thanks for stopping by. I hope you enjoyed it, and we hope to see you next week on Components Live. And keep an eye out in your podcast feed for the new season of Components. And if you have any questions about structured content, want to bounce on some cool ideas, or take a look at Heretto, feel free to find us on the web. Bye, everybody.
See ya.